Governor Jerry Brown has declared a state of emergency in Amador and Calaveras as new mandatory evacuations have been ordered. Here's a new look at the map. The fire now stands at 50,000 acres. That's more than 78 square miles scorched. News 10's Dave Marquis joins us now. And Dave, none of the original allegations even turned out to be true, did they?
Christina, no sex tapes, no prostitutes.
New tonight, several business owners now on alert after a string of commercial burglaries in Citrus Heights. News 10's Carlos Cicero spoke with one victim hit multiple times who says he's had enough.
On for 3 months.
They say she's been threatened with violence, and because of a rare medical condition, any injury to her face could be dangerous to her health. Tonight, News 10's Bianca Grollo went down to Turlock to hear this family's story and find out if she is getting any help from the school district. We plan for vacation, we plan for retirement, those are expected. Violence is not. Tonight, we urge you, especially women, to think about your personal safety and the options available to you to make sure you're never a victim. This is one option. There are now nearly 6,000 concealed weapons permit holders in Sacramento County. Many of them are women who want the option of lethal force to protect themselves.
I get them one of two ways. Something has happened and they realize that now they need to defend themselves, or they need to get some information and the ability to defend themselves just in case.
With 28 years of law enforcement experience and 18 as an instructor, Mandy Autry is the gun lady, but says a gun should be your last resort.
When you put a gun out on somebody and you actually press that trigger, your whole life is going to change. And even if you just point a gun at a person, your life is going to change.
Even with the serious legal and moral considerations, Mandy says her female students often leave her courses with new confidence.
And they walk away from class going, I'm going to get my concealed carry. So, which is, to me, very awesome. That means more than anything else.
If carrying a gun is your choice for security, you should know it isn't cheap. The fees for a concealed weapons permit, the lessons, and to purchase the weapon will run altogether about $1,000. And you have to commit to background checks, legal coursework, and regular practice, or else the training won't work when you need it.
They'll do their startle, flinch, because it's human nature. We're trying to protect ourselves. And then there is actually a disconnect between this and getting this out.
That startle flinch Mandy is referring to is the physical reaction to realizing you're in danger. It's why you have to train with any weapon to build the muscle memory to react quickly.
Here, we really train people for what their worst nightmares are.
The struggle over a weapon, held down by a man and choked, or grabbed from behind as you try to get away. The Israeli fighting system called Krav Maga is made for close-quarter street combat and uses techniques that allow a smaller person to fight off a larger attacker.
It's not about how pretty your strikes are. It's really about how much can you endure.
And a man's grip is a man's grip, and this sport will help you defend yourself against multiple men and adjust to their capabilities.
Chris Wilson of King Krav Maga says women of any age can protect themselves with the right training, and intersex sparring is one of the keys.
It can be a woman, but usually at night by your car, it's a guy. So if you don't get to feel that power, then you never really truly get to prepare for it.
I don't have any fears like I used to, because I feel confident that I will fight back.
If close quarter fighting isn't for you,
double take away,
and lethal force isn't for you, there are other options.
Another less lethal option you may have heard of is the taser. Police officers carry these. They shoot these little darts here. But a lot of security specialists don't recommend these for most people. They're bulkier than even a handgun. You only get one shot, and if you miss, the attacker's on you.
In addition to firearms training, the Security and Firearms Training Academy of North Highlands offers courses for women who don't want the responsibility of carrying a gun.
I'm not comfortable carrying a weapon on the street. That's just how I feel. I'm afraid somebody stole my purse or whatever. If I shot the wrong person, I'm not ready for that.
Robin Padilla teaches women how to use pepper spray and stun guns, and she speaks from frightening experience.
That I was at the Roseville Galleria a couple years ago, walking out to my car at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My keys are dangling. I got my pepper spray in my hand. A guy came up to me, young kid, said, "Hi, I'm really nice." I'm like, okay. And then another kid came out between the cars. And he's like, "Oh, we're not going to hurt you." And I said, "Well, I am. Who wants it first?" So had this been in my purse, I would not have had a chance to get it out because they were very close.
These are weapons that need to be in your hand to be effective. They have wrist clips to deactivate them if they're taken from you. Security professionals say an attacker can cross 21 feet in 1.5 seconds, so a weapon of any kind in your purse will be useless.
So they hear that and they're just like, oh, I'm not messing with her. She's got something. And that's my whole idea, is to keep somebody away and let them know that I'm not going to be an easy target.
Not being an easy target is the most important aspect of any personal security plan. Your willingness to protect your own life. Every expert we talked to said will to live is more important than any technique or any weapon.
You have to have that mindset, whether it's guns, tasers, knives, fist to fist, it doesn't matter, is that there's a good chance you're probably going to get hurt. And you have to stay in the fight.
Can you put up the long fight? Are you going to quit? Or are you going to keep going? Because that will to live and to keep fighting is what is going to get you home.
Size does not matter. Let's go. There you go. Work. Let's go. Control.
All of these experts we talked to had such passion for helping women, for helping people in general, but for helping women especially feel safer. The Krav Maga instructor, Chris Wilson, one of his students that we talked to, she was the woman with the gray hair. She says, you know, I have osteoporosis in my wrists, but Chris was able to work with me to find ways that I can defend myself, and I feel very confident that I could defend myself.
You know, you showed us a lot of different good options, and people have to decide maybe which one is best for them. But still, it was kind of frightening to watch. I mean, you really have to understand that you have to, you know, have some training and think this through, because you're just going to have a split second to respond if there's a threat coming at you. And I like what Robin said, oh, we're not going to hurt you. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to hurt you. Who's first?
Right.
It's an attitude that you have, you know, to be able to respond quickly and, you know,
that will to live. And if you go to abc10.com and look at my story, you'll find all of the different experts, their websites, resources, and prices for a lot of the things that we talked about tonight, because money is a factor as well when you're looking at personal protection.
Great information, and thank you in advance for walking me out to my car tonight. So, I feel much safer now with you.
Jerome is living his happy ending. He has a job, a loving wife.
Go.
And a tidy apartment in Sacramento.
And then my alarm goes up and I wake up in the morning about 5. I'll take a shower. I eat my breakfast, and when I'm done, my job coach, they come, and they come at about 7, and then we take off, and I work all day, and we clean, and I mow lawns.
Jerome is now under the care of an organization called STEP, or Strategies to Empower People. It is one of hundreds of community-based programs that help people with disabilities live and work in their own communities outside an institutional setting.
We do it better. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. We do it better because it's tailored for them.
Jerome spent 20 years in institutions, starting when he was 12 years old and abandoned by his parents. At his last stop in Porterville, he was restrained, couldn't breathe, and suffered a seizure leading to additional brain damage.
He'd put me in the corner and punish me and push my face into the wall. And he would call other people to come, and then that's how they strapped me down.
Abuse in state-run institutions is well documented. The Center for Investigative Reporting fought for records showing 13 people have died from neglect or murder since 2002. Unsupervised patients have attacked each other, and rape is rampant. Assemblywoman Shannon Grove read those reports and questioned the former director.
I asked her what she was doing about the rapes that are occurring in these state institutions, and she said that she was putting people on birth control.
Assemblywoman Grove and State Senator Jeff Stone are sponsoring bills to close the largest 2 institutions in Sonoma and Costa Mesa. The money would be redirected to community-based programs like STEP.
There's significant savings, and I have spoken to senators on both sides of the aisle that are understanding that this is a problem and it needs to be addressed.
There are about 1,000 patients in California institutions for those with developmental disabilities. Based on the governor's budget, each patient is effectively costing California $504,000 a year. Community-based programs operate at about $19,000 a year per patient. And the feds continue to pull funding for compliance issues, meaning the state has to backfill even more money to keep the institutions open.
We're taking general fund money and we're supplanting what is being lost.
But closure of the institutions is a touchy subject for those who work there. And at a Senate hearing this week, there were families who want to see the institutions stay open.
It's his home, and it's been his home since 1970.
5,000 state jobs are at stake, well-paying jobs with pensions. The institution in Sonoma is a major employer for that area. And while the director of the State Department of Developmental Services declined our request for an interview, we were sent a statement. It reads in part, the DC's developmental centers continue to work on systems improvements through continuing improvement plans, as well as any necessary culture change to make advancements in all aspects of care and services to the residents. Those wanting to see the institutions closed say even if you don't know anyone with a developmental disability, there is a reason for all Californians to care.
They're not throwaway people just because they were born different. Look at Jerome. Jerome was once a drain on taxpayer dollars. When Jerome is now outside in the community, working, thriving, doing his own thing, and paying taxes, he's not a drain on the community. He's helping the economy. So that's why you should care.
Congress today, and 50,000 faithful showed up for a final chance to see the Pope in D.C. in person. Inside, the historical address of Pope Francis to a joint session of Congress. Outside, on the West Lawn and on terraces, those with the hottest tickets in town.
His first visit to the United States, addressing Congress. There's no other Pope who did that.
We got up at 4:30 yesterday to be down at the mall. We waited 5 hours for the Holy Father. We saw him in about 4 seconds.
The Pope's tone to Congress was complimentary, but also a call to action on things like immigration and the environment. And while he did not address abortion directly, he called for a defense of life at every stage and urged Congress to use the nation's wealth to help others. But to most of those on the West Lawn, today was all about that in-person experience and being a part of history.
Just super excited to be able to see the Pope actually close by, not just on a screen.
I had a chance to go to the Million Man March. I went to the President's inauguration, and now I'm here for the Pope, so it's been a fantastic opportunity to see a lot of great things.
That was really a familiar sentiment from people, is that they really wanted to feel a part of history. Now, the barricades have come down. Some of them and road closures will go back on again when the Chinese president comes to Washington, D.C. But for now, they're down. And probably the happiest people in town are the cab drivers because it was really tough for them to make fares when they had all these road closures. We heard it from just about every cab driver on the cabs we were able to catch. Dale and Emily, back to you.
Wow, I would never think about that, but impacting even the cab drivers. And Christina, I know for you, there was a lot of security you had to get through to get to see everything. What was the toughest part about that?
Well, it was interesting because I have covered a Pope's visit before. I covered a Pope's visit in Denver, and I have covered an inauguration before, so we were used to security. But what used to be 3 or 4 hours to report ahead of an event was now 5 or 6 hours to report. So we stood a lot in the dark with other people, and one of the underreported things was how beautiful the weather was. That made a big difference because a lot of people also were up really early, lining the streets, getting ready for the Pope to come by for their 4 seconds to be able to wave at the Pope. And the fact that we had between 70 and 80-degree weather, a few light clouds, and once in a while a beautiful breeze was really nice for everyone.
Yeah, because when people line the streets there for a presidential inauguration, it is much, much colder in D.C. You saw some protesters today, too, did you not?
Yes. Yeah, interestingly, because the security was so tight, they cordoned the streets off in a way that they really did it effectively. I mean, they do it here, herding people from one event or one area to another. So we really didn't see any protesters. We saw our first protester today. He was a man with a backpack microphone walking around protesting against people who were entering the Capitol West Lawn. But that was the only protester that we were able to see. For the most part, I believe they were kept pretty far back from the barricades.
Yeah, in the national coverage, too, we just didn't see a whole lot. They were there, but it was not necessarily what you'd call a huge presence. Right. Christina, great job this week. Thank you very much from D.C.